While looking at a world map, I noticed something odd. Big, influential countries like the United States and China are huge, but smaller countries like France, the United Kingdom, or Germany are still considered powerful despite their small size. Economically speaking, these countries are strong. 4 of the world's top 10 economies are in Europe, but when we look at these countries from a military perspective, the picture changes. The largest army in the European Union, for example, is Poland, and their total military personnel is around 200,000. That's a relatively small number compared to armies of other countries around the world. So I started wondering, after all the economic integration the EU has achieved, does Europe need a united army or a kind of military integration similar to what it did economically? First off, while writing this script, I realized I'd overlooked something obvious. Europe technically already has an army. It's called NATO. NATO includes most European countries, plus the United States and Canada. The militaries of these countries work together in multinational units with troops from different European nations. According to NATO's website, today, troops and personnel from NATO allies serve, train, and exercise together in the east of the alliance, representing a strong expression of unity and solidarity. The site also gives examples of these international groups. One unit, for instance, is based in Latvia and includes troops from Albania, the Czech Republic, Iceland, Italy, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. On top of that, NATO countries have agreed to standardize military equipment and technology. Another article on NATO's website explains, in practical terms, standards enable people from a wide variety of countries and backgrounds to have compatible equipment, to understand each other's methods and procedures, and to operate smoothly even if they have just started working together. This is called interoperability, which is the ultimate goal of standardization. So if a piece of military equipment is built in Sweden, it can integrate really easily with other military equipment made in Spain, the United Kingdom, Turkey, or any other NATO ally. That means Europe's armies are already deeply integrated. And if this topic had been brought up a year ago, that might have been the end of the story. But it's not.
Sir, will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taken advantage of us because, number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations, okay, like terrible. On top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
President Trump's answer wasn't exactly reassuring to those who depend on US military support. The United States is NATO's strongest military power, and its presence, especially its nuclear presence, is a huge part of deterring any Russian actions in Europe. European countries also rely heavily on the United States for logistics, as well as for intelligence sharing. So, does Europe need a military of its own? Without the United States, the NATO alliance would be much weaker, especially if European armies can't hold their own. And Europe's military situation became more unstable after this happened.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Trump's comments blaming Ukraine for starting the war were dangerous from a European security perspective, especially after the United States later paused military aid to Ukraine. These statements bring us back to the original question, does Europe need a united army? In terms of a European army, Trump's position may have weakened trust between Europeans and Americans, meaning that if a European country was attacked, for example, it might not be confident that the United States would help it defend itself. That country would then have to prepare to fight on its own without any American support. That is the concern of Germany's now Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, who said,
Aber spätestens nach den Äußerungen aus der letzten Woche von Donald Trump ist klar, dass den Amerikanern, jedenfalls diesem Teil der Amerikaner, dieser Regierung, das Schicksal Europas weitgehend gleichgültig ist.
Merz later added that more independence for the European Union from the United States is an absolute priority. Then, after those comments, Germany's Bundestag approved a plan to spend $500 billion on its military and infrastructure. Military and defense coordination is also growing across other European countries, and changes like this are crucial if Europe hopes to hold its own against Russia without any American support, even if it comes at a massive cost. And military integration is possible. We've already seen it with NATO. On top of that, Europe collectively has around 1.5 million military personnel, which is globally a significant number. But even so, if we take another look at the European armies, we'll see that they still heavily rely on the United States. One article from AP explains that many can't be deployed on a battlefield, and those who can are hard to use effectively without a centralized command system. It also states that NATO troops are controlled by a US general, using American air transport and logistics. So full European independence would be extremely costly, and might take a while. And that might be one reason why the UK-France peace proposal for Ukraine included a role for the United States, even suggesting sending American troops to Ukraine, despite Trump's opposition to the idea and to NATO membership for Ukraine in general. Still, self-reliance remains a key goal for European military strategy, because even if relations with the United States return to how they were before, another president like Trump later on could come and take the same position. That's why a European army would be very helpful to Europe.